I'm obliged, Presiding Officer. Before starting the main part of my speech, let me just pick up a couple of things that have been said. Strange that Liam Kerr, in talking about nuclear trains, seems to have been unaware of the nuclear police role in that, rather than BTP. And in relation to Oliver Mundell, and this is a more important and substantial point, he said there's one rail network in the UK. He's wrong. There are two. The GB network is the one that's policed by BTP. The Irish network in Northern Ireland, it's part of the Police Service of Northern Ireland's responsibilities to police the railways in Northern Ireland, which they do jointly in the island of Ireland with the Garda Síochána, which is a perfectly satisfactory arrangement where the safety arrangements and achievements in Ireland appear to be quite similar to those that are in the UK. Now, let's just have a wee word or two about what the BTP is. Now, its origins are very ancient. The first railway police were formed in 1826, 3 years before the Metropolitan Police. There have been many reforms in the nearly 200 years since the first railway police were established. This is one in a long line of reforms and changes. What are the BTP about? They're about a physical presence that is seen by passengers, seen by staff on the rail network. And that is probably the most important thing. But one of the key things to remember is hardly any of the public know they aren't Police Scotland. They're just police to the members of the public. And I can give an example. Some years ago, I found some money lying in the street on my way to the station. I took it to BTP at Waverley, and I was told I had to go to a different police station to hand it in. Well, that's just a little example from about 10 years ago, not necessarily current. Now, the BTP also, of course, like all police, have to deal with offending. Now, I heard from Douglas Ross that the amount of offending would overwhelm Police Scotland. Well, the number of offences is less than...
Point of order.
Oh.
I'm sure Mr Stevenson didn't want to mislead Parliament. He said I told Parliament that the increases would overwhelm the British Transport Police. Sorry.
I don't even think that. I don't think that's a point of order. Just sit down just now, and I'll let Mr. Stevenson make clear what he wants to say.
Well, I'm happy to acknowledge the substantive point he makes, if that's correct, because I'm sure he would not mislead me. But I will say to him that the number of offences dealt with BTP are less than 10 per day. I'm sure that will overwhelm the resources of Police Scotland. And the number of recorded crimes is 5.5 per day. That's going to overwhelm the systems in Police Scotland. Now, also, of course, what the BTP are there, besides dealing with offending, dealing with...
Both being very impolite, Minister and Mr Ross, to the Speaker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The other matter which is a vital role of BTP is, of course, the strategic one related to terrorism. Indeed, a UK Parliament committee session, DCC Handstock, said in the hierarchy of risk, the biggest threat is terrorism. The challenge of protecting the network that is so wide and open, the risk being so unpredictable, causes the greatest level of concern. So let's think about interfaces. There are 45 territorial forces in the United Kingdom. There are 3 national forces, BTP, Ministry of Defence and Nuclear. After this reform, what's the number? Exactly the same. It's just that some of one has gone to another. There are still 45 plus 3. And the number of interfaces is therefore, arithmetic, 990 interfaces. There will still be 990 interfaces. Now, does any of this matter? Well, 95% of rail passenger journeys made in Scotland are wholly in Scotland. So at the moment, those interface with a separate police force from all the other crime that there is. With this reform, they are now interfacing with the police force that deals with crime throughout Scotland and offences. So actually, in terms of interfaces that the public deal with, we dramatically reduce the interfaces that there are. So let me just say a couple of things about track access. Even if every police officer had a track access certificate, it'd be unwise to rely on that. I've got a motorcycle licence, but I haven't been on a bike since 1969. It's legal for me to get one on tomorrow. Very unwise to do so because I'm out of practice. So therefore, I'm quite clear. Police officers should only go on the line in the most extreme of circumstances, certificate or not. I hope if a mother pushed a pram over a platform, I would shout to somebody, tell me if a train's coming, and jump and rescue them. I think police would do the same. But yes, the core has to be in the hands of people with track certificates. That's the important thing. Now, with 300 plus railway stations in Scotland, how many have BTP present? Actually, about a dozen. So we know that the majority of railway stations across Scotland are covered by Police Scotland, and that will continue. Now, finally, let me just say to my Labour colleagues, I hear everything you say, but you better tell the Lord Mayor of London, the Labour Lord Mayor of London, who wants to integrate the BTP into the Metropolitan Police. So you're saying one thing in Scotland, and we're hearing another thing in London. So, Presiding Officer, I strongly support this. Thank you very much for the 6 minutes.